Now, before we get into the performance benchmark, one important thing to note is that Intel recommends turning on resizable bar for the best results. Now, if you see a resizable bar not enabled warning after installing your drivers, you may need to disable CSM in your BIOS, and you may also need to check that resizable bar is also enabled. Now, for me, resizable bar was also enabled, but I was still running into this error, so I had to disable CSM for this error to go away, or rather for this error to be fixed. But overall, the driver installation process was straightforward and I did not encounter any issues whatsoever. So how does the Intel ARC B580 perform in actual games? Well, in Forza Horizon 5 at high settings with ray tracing, the Intel B580 delivered an impressive 120 FPS on average and 98 FPS on average at 1440p. In Need for Speed Unbound is where I did run into my first issue, because I initially thought that the B580 drivers weren't optimized because the game was a stuttery mess, until I realized that recording with OBS was the culprit. For some reason, screen recording with OBS was causing stuttering in both NFS Unbound and Resident Evil 4 the remake, but switching to the Windows game bar recording magically fixed the issue. So I don't know what's up with that, but that just happened. And in Need for Speed Unbound high settings with no ray tracing, the B580 averaged 70 FPS in 1080p and 60 FPS in 1440p. Resident Evil 4 on high settings performed well at 1440p, as I was averaging an average FPS of 65 FPS in outdoor areas and 75 FPS indoors, while as in 1080p the performance was even better, as I was averaging 80 FPS outdoors and 90 FPS indoors.
This is not good.
In Cyberpunk 2077, running the game with high settings, the Intel ARC B580 delivered a solid 80 FPS in 1080p and a solid 60 FPS in 1440p, which is honestly quite impressive considering how heavy Cyberpunk is. Now moving on to Marvel's Spider-Man 2, a new addition to our benchmarks, and this is where the Intel ARC B580 struggled, as on high settings it managed only 55 FPS in 1080p and 40 FPS in 1440p. This means that inevitably you will have to use upscaling for you to get a really decent playable FPS. So for me, I had to choose Intel XeSS since it's an Intel GPU, and I was running Intel XeSS with the quality preset, and using the quality preset this game was able to maintain a 60 FPS average in 1080p, and in 1440p the frame rate hovered around 50 to 55 FPS. Now you could get more performance if you switched to ultra performance and performance mode with Intel XeSS, but this will come at the great cost of image quality. But if you do not mind this, then go ahead and switch to these performance modes. But honestly, I can chalk up the poor performance in this game due to driver optimizations, so probably with time they will get this game fixed.
Hey MJ!
Hey guys, you might want to get downtown fast.
Swinging through Brooklyn. Jameson had you on the ground for the bugle? Still can't believe old Triple J is your new boss.
My final thoughts here are that the Intel ARC B580 is a solid 1440p and 1080p GPU. However, Intel still has a long way to go in terms of driver optimization, as some titles do not perform well as expected. That said, Intel has consistently improved ARC GPUs through driver updates, so performance may continue to get better over time. Now tell me what you think about this video, and if you're interested in purchasing the Intel ARC B580, be sure to visit our shop located along Kimathi Street at Old Mutual Building, room 405 on the 4th floor. Additionally, you can have a chat with us or check out our catalog over at esgaming.co.ke.